So, we're at the second track of Greyscale, which is called Magic. To compare Magic with the previous track, which is Holding On, I would definitely say that it's very different on many aspects, like the atmosphere, the production, the approach to the music, lyrically, vocals wise. It's all different and it's all intentional. I deliberately made that decision because shortly after that feeling of absence, I would find ways to substitute it. Ways in retrospect that I shouldn't have. I should have taken the time to sit and reflect with everything that I was doing. But instead I would be putting on this kind of persona where I would be like, emotions, I'm going to live my life and I'm going to brag and I'm going to show off and I'm going to do all these things and elevate myself. But it was all a bit futile. The feelings that grief were going to provide were going to happen anyway. I should have taken the time to embrace that. So putting it after Holding On is meant to feel jarring. It's meant to feel different. It's meant to put you in your place in that regard, like, this doesn't feel right. And that's how I feel right now. I feel that what I was doing at the time just doesn't feel right now. And I think, if anything, Magic is kind of my way of showing one of the first lessons that I've learnt looking back at everything. I think if I really took the time to reflect and feel how I felt, maybe all of these situations wouldn't have hurt me so much. Now we're going to cross over to the logic session where I'm going to show how I do one of my vocal effects in Magic.
Hey everyone, so today we're going to be looking at how I did these vocals. So it's kind of like a really polarizing kind of sound. I really wanted it to cut through, but also be an ambient enough sound that in the mix itself, it kind of picks up when someone pays attention to it. So in regards to the whole context of the mix, I want to just play how it sounds. So as you can hear, it's there, but it's also behind the sample that's playing at the same time. So the first thing I did was, let's just get rid of all these plugins first. So I heavily auto-tuned the vocal entry because I wanted it to kind of be really spontaneous. Like, I just recorded it, didn't really do much, didn't practice it, but I just wanted to make it an instrument that was very raw. I've run it through Nectar. So this is the preset. So I've got the pitch correction really high and the width really wide. And as you can see, there's a couple of notches that I've tweaked and a lot of high passage. So reason being, we'll get to that later. But let's listen to it with Nectar on. So as you can hear, that's quite a raw take. And I totally get that. Quite unorthodox, but that's how I roll. So the next thing I did was I got a guitar pedal board. This is your stock Logic kind of pedal board. So I've got a tube burner, a graphics EQ, and a octave, Dr. Octave. And so what I did was I raised the lower octave of this and turned down the upper octave and turned the drive up to death. And as a result, I've turned down the volume of the track a lot just to compensate. So here we go. This is without. and width. So it's subtle, and there is a bit of glitching here and there. I added more distortion in regards to the middle areas of the voice. So the 1000 to 2200 range. There's a preset here called Screenbox on the stock clip distortion. So this is what it sounds like with it. And then what I also did after that was I added what I have is a D16 Software Group's Devaster 2. So what I did was I turned on the initial Devaster 2 kind of preset, and all I did was just turn down the output volume just so it's not overloaded. And this is what it sounds like with it. So to kind of tame down a bit of the parts of the glitching that stick out a bit too much, what I did was I added a space designer, which is the stock convolution reverb in Logic. And so what I did was I set this to the default, and I just made everything just a nice high spread, low dry input, and just made sure that everything was drowned, I guess you could say, in reverb, but in a way that is kind of just balanced out nicely. And if you look at the output EQ, I just made sure that the low and high ends were a little bit tapered off, just so it wasn't too abrasive. So here it is with the reverb on. And now put a max direction mixer and just let it do its thing. And so this is the final product. And I'll play it with the whole mix now. And you'll get to listen to the rest of that when the song comes out on the 29th. Back to talking Shy Junior.
Magic for me, I wanted to be a polarizing track. I guess that's what you got to do for art. You got to take that risk. You got to be different. And for me, that's what I really aimed for. I wrote this track with the full intention that it would surprise people, because that's what it was doing for me when I was writing it. It surprised me into thinking I really was doing those things. I really was being a completely different person when I was trying to deal with these things. I was being, I guess, irrational. But that was because I didn't understand what I was feeling, and I was suppressing it and putting it to the side, brushing it into the closet, when instead I should have taken those things out and addressed them and worked through them. Up next, we have the song Take It Back, which is kind of more back to the usual Shy Junior roots, a bit more of an upbeat, peppy track. And I definitely would say that in contrast to Magic, this is more into going into the other stages of grief. This is kind of like one of your transition songs, where the emotions kind of shift between each other. So until then, I'll see you tomorrow, and thank you for watching.
Without learning a lesson, oh God, isn't it magic? Isn't it magic? Isn't it magic? Oh my God, isn't this magic?